Welcome to our Green Chair Conversations Lent series. Today we have with us Pastor Tim Johnson. Tim, a Memphis transplant, has a heart and a passion for shepherding with a special emphasis on the inner city and multi-ethnic contexts. Tim served as the executive director of Spark, a multi-ethnic church planting partnership between three churches in Memphis: Hope Church, Second Presbyterian Church, and Fellowship Memphis. And then in 2018 planted the Avenue Community Church here in Memphis, Tennessee. Tim is a husband, a father of three, a pastor, a musician, and is extremely passionate about cultivating diversity and building unity in the church and city of Memphis. In this episode, Tim shares his journey with a whole lot of twists and turns, his pastoral heart, and answers some of your questions. So let's get to it and meet Tim Johnson in the Green Chair. Tim Johnson.
Tim Johnson.
Tim Johnson is here in the Green Chair.
Timothy Marcus Johnson.
Timothy, I did not know your middle name. Timothy Marcus Johnson is in the Green Chair.
Let's start over. I shouldn't have offered that. No.
Thank you for being here. It's been a while, and you have a connection with Hope, and so it's just fun having you back in here.
You know, what people don't know is that it took me 20 extra minutes just to get done my hellos and salutations and greetings because I love Hope.
Yeah, and Hope loves you. That's why you're here. So we love having you. Okay, so I want to hear about you. You have so many different layers to your story and your journey. Just learning about it and having conversation with you about it. I don't even know really where to dive in, but I do want to start.
Okay.
Number one, you are a pastor.
I am a pastor.
You planted a church.
I did.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe long story short, military brat, ended up doing high school in Mobile, Alabama, college in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Then back to Mobile to work alongside my dad at his inner city church in Mobile. Okay. And so I ended up getting discipled by this big 6'8" Presbyterian dude. I didn't even know what Presbyterian was, but man, it was a really sweet time in my life. I really felt like I grew in my faith and it really had perspectives opened. And so certain seminary and other kind of opportunities, we laugh about this now, but in the black church, especially in my circles, I don't want to speak blanketed, but you know, you don't have a lot of pastoral positions. And so you got the lead pastor and then the youth pastor.
And that's it.
And so you're going to be sitting on the bench quite a while. So, I wanted to see what else was out there. And so, man, the Lord just sovereignly just used certain connections. A brother I had from Fellowship Memphis and was working with Rufus and John Bryson and Brian Loritz and Sandy Wilson on a project to plant multiple churches that were outward focused, gospel centered and relevant. And they were looking for someone who wanted to kind of just manage that project, not necessarily looking for a pastor. And so I knew I needed the next step. Okay. And so I came up, fortunate enough to deceive those men to allow me to have this job. But no, they brought me on to be the executive director of that church planting organization. And so anyway, long story short, as I was somewhere maybe in my second year, I was just surveying Memphis, and I had just spent really 2 years just getting to know it, like who are the key players, the neighborhoods, what are they about, what's healthy about them, where could our ministry initiatives be helpful and useful. And I fell in love with the Summer Avenue area, and I kept like, man, we need to, this is where it is. It's so unique, and the diversity, and man, so much could be done there. And I just kept trying to get somebody to get excited about it, trying to find the right people to put in the pastorate, and then the Lord kind of made it clear, I'm not calling anybody else, I'm calling you. So, so that was that.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so then that is the Avenue. Are you called the
Avenue Community Church.
There you go.
Okay, which camera?
And that was 2018, as it says on your shirt.
2018. Yeah, we launched out with a group of, we call them 25 units, so married
Okay.
families and singles.
Okay.
One of those was a unit, and we really kind of spent about 8 months just kind of becoming a family, loving on each other, and seeing if we could become the church before we invited people into it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
So, that was sweet.
Okay. So tell me, you're a pastor, obviously.
Yes.
This has been a very crazy year. I mean, I don't know if you know, there's been a pandemic, a global, yeah. This has been a crazy year. I imagine you guys have been innovating and thinking creatively and trying all kinds of new different things.
Yeah, for sure.
But also you're loving on your people and caring for them. What are you seeing? Like, what are you seeing with you? Because I love having this conversation with people across the city, different churches, different organizations and things that they're experiencing.
You know, I just feel like this has really just been a time of shaking. I think, as the old folks would say, it's a sifting season. You know, and I think early on, I laugh. I even thought myself, I could just vividly remember when they say, "Oh, I think there's this weird kind of pandemic thing going on." And so we're not really sure how we're going to handle it. It's highly contagious. We want to keep people away from each other. And I myself, as a pastor, who was coming off a major knee surgery.
Wow.
I was not walking yet, so I was still on crutches. This was kind of like my maybe 8th week without being able to put weight on my leg. My dear friend and brother and my director of ministry operations had resigned, and so I was limping into this pandemic.
Literally and figuratively.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get a chance to take a break. All this pandemic stuff, maybe just take a break and I could just recalibrate and then whatever. And I had no idea that we were planting a virtual church. Like, that everything we were doing, we're just literally trying to sustain a faith family, being apart from each other. And that was just crazy challenging.
Yeah, it's been hard. And I think people, the things I'm hearing is that people have learned, or not learned, but have struggled relearning how to love each other again. Like, just between all of the tension and the political season and everything, it's like, and then also you remove the face-to-face factor. So we're all on screens, just railing on each other on Facebook, railing on each other on social media.
Yes.
And it's like, we have forgotten how to love one another and to say, you believe this, I believe this.
Yeah.
You're still a child of God, right?
For
You're
sure.
still created in the image of God. And so I still have to respect you. I still have to listen and love you.
Oh, no.
So I'm going to get going on that.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I think,
it's hard.
Yes, and to your point, I think that to me has been an encouraging thing, because I do believe, like, the way of our master, what 1 Peter, when reviled, he reviled not. Like, see, that's not the kind of character. Immediately when we start thinking about Jesus and what it means to be prophetic in this moment, we always start with offering truth, but not demonstrating the grace that Jesus walked with. You know what I'm saying? Like, do we not think that he was in the middle of a socially chaotic, oppressive moment for the nation of Israel in Rome? But it was the character, to me, that stood out above even the opinions that he had of Rome and Caesar and whatever. He was building that kingdom, but the way that he built it was what made all the difference.
Yeah, that's good though. That's good that I love what you have going on at the Avenue, and I think it's a really cool thing.
Well, we appreciate you, sister.
Okay, so one of the things I loved about your story is that which I didn't know, is you grew up practicing Lent. Like, Lent is a deal. And I would love, this is not necessarily a deal, it's new to me, I'm learning it.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about what is Lent to you, what does that look like, and practicing it. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Me and my wife laughed because it was such a deal for us that we kind of collectively, you doing anything? Not this year. You know what I mean?
Okay,
it was,
Which is interesting, that's a cool perspective though.
For sure. I can remember fasting for Lent or observing it more years for sure than I could remember not observing it. And I think it really was a special part of my faith experience and journey. I'm so grateful that it was ingrained in there. And I think the thing that really I walked away from Lent with was taking the the idea of Lent, and I can place that in any season I'm in.
That's
so
true.
we
Yeah.
walked into the election season and we did 40 days of fasting and prayer as a church.
That's good.
For that
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, man, well, we don't have to just isolate this for Lent.
Yeah.
We believe that anything that would intensify our focus, make us more aware of God's presence and our need for Him, throw it anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just put it in there.
Yeah.
So I think that comes a lot from, you probably can't tell, I grew up like Orthodox Anglican.
Really?
No.
Oh. I was like, wait, what? You're throwing me
That
curveball.
charismatic is oozing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I am grateful for that. I really am. I call myself a theological mutt. So, you know, you go from people just breaking off and running down the center of your aisleway at church to
Presbyterian.
a Presbyterian, the frozen chosen. I really, got it all, and I've learned to appreciate the beautiful aspects that all of those expressions bring. But the thing that I just loved the most was like, in that charismatic environment, like you really believed in, Keller talks about, in the broader Christendom faith community, like you have Christians who are like superstitious, and then you got Christians who are substitious, right? And so it's like, everything can be explained, everything has natural causes and effects, and the reason why that happened is because right? And then you got over here, which is probably a little bit closer where I grew up, like if you sneezed, that was the devil trying to attack you, and we got to rebuke that, you know what I mean? And so the challenge is like, man, how we live in the middle where we acknowledge as people who believe we are indwelt by a spirit.
Yeah.
That's what we confess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That by when we come to the Lord's table and we take the bread and we're not literally doing it, but we do know something profoundly spiritual is happening. You know what I mean? And so I love my charismatic upbringing because it's swimming in that.
Yeah.
And when we fast, we believe we are plugging up to the charger, baby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When we observe Lent, we believe that, we're getting hooked up to the power.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
That's good.
I love it.
That's really, really good. Okay, so one of the things we're including is questions from our congregation.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have a question for you, and then I also want us to talk a little bit about prayer as well.
For sure.
But the question I have for you is, sometimes I expect to feel something when I pray. Why does prayer feel like I'm speaking to thin air sometimes, and how can I change that?
Yeah. Man, I would commend to whoever you are, my sweet sister or brother in the faith. There's a book by Tim Keller. I think it's just called Prayer. It might have a subtitle. But I think one of the things that I love, especially the charismatic part of me, like Keller begins to unpack just the kind of the historical nature of prayer throughout various traditions, and he starts going into like Catholic mysticism and Jewish mysticism, and like
He goes deep into that.
He goes deep. And I think one of the things that you uncover is that sometimes I'm speaking blanketed, but maybe in the 21st century version of prayer, there is a very much a monologue, right? And so, man, I'm gonna offer supplication. Lord, would you help me navigate my career decisions? Lord, would you help me be kind and gracious to my spouse and my kids? And amen.
Yeah.
Right? And I would say to that person that I think prayer is very much a dialogue.
Yes.
And I think what will happen as you begin to operate in the spirit realm, I think there's a reasonable expectation that Jesus is not going to say, "What up, Tim? You good today, my boy?" That vernacular, that's not the way that I'm expecting that communication to happen. But I do believe, even in my personal prayer life, like when I say I'm going to prayer, sometimes I will pray silently, but I'm also going to leave space.
Yes.
I'm going to leave space for the Lord to move on my heart and to be able to push my emotions and my intellect in different ways. And I'm going to entrust that time to Him, that as He leads me, I might even keep a journal by me. I oftentimes keep something I can scribble with, because there are things that are being impressed into my spirit, like as I'm just sitting in His presence, like, oh, I didn't. So I would just say simply, create some space.
Yes.
And do not predetermine how the Lord will speak and what he will use, but know that he is speaking to you at all times. And especially if you designate that time, I believe you'll be surprised the ways that the Lord will whisper in that still small, sweet, still voice.
And, and I second that too, because that's exactly what I was thinking is allowing that space.
Yes.
I think sometimes we treat prayer like a to-do list, right? Sure. Did I have breakfast? Did I drink my coffee? Did I take the kids to school? Did I do the laundry? Did I pray? And we don't leave space to say, okay, like I'm going to have a conversation with God and and sometimes what I would find myself tempted to do is to go through my prayer, right?
Yes.
Okay, hey God, here's what I need, here's where I'm going, here's what's today, be with today. And then I'm silent. And then I'm done.
Yep.
Like then I'm like, okay, cool. All right, gotta go. And it's like it's only just enough because it's like just a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because you're like, and then you're out.
Right.
But what I've kind of learned to do is just to pray and then bring space into the middle of it. So like, and then it allows it to be a slower pace.
Yes.
And it makes me be more comfortable with silence.
Yes.
It makes me be more comfortable with while you're listening to somebody or you're hearing a story. It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable to say, I got nothing. Yeah.
Well,
and listen.
Man, you need to write a book. You're already working on one. That was that laugh. It's like, oh, I'm already working on
I'm not working on a book. That's what's really funny.
I would also say, too, that we believe that the Bible is God's powerful, authoritative self-expression, too. And that, to me, I almost feel like it's antithetical to be in dialogue with God without his word. And knowing that he wants to speak to you through that. And that if at the conclusion of your prayer, you read one of the rich Psalms, that's not God speaking to you any less than if something just dropped into your spirit. You know what I'm saying? So I would also say, man, having your word there with you and knowing that that's his word, it's his expression, speaking to you too, that sometimes at the end of a prayer, there weren't rockets and fireworks and you weren't scribbling on expo markers all across the house. You know what is crazy, Jess? When I run, I want some camera, where you at? Come talk to me. Somebody invent an expo marker that I could put on my head, an expo board, dry erase board. Because when I'm running, I just feel like my spiritual pores are open and God is just like...
That happens to me on walks. Like I'll get outside. As soon as I go for a walk and I'm outside, I have these ideas.
It is flowing.
And I'm just putting it on my phone. But I about kill myself doing that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just say, man, don't predetermine it. But I also believe that, as you are in a dialogue with the love of your soul, right? The one who delights over you. Even with our spouses, like we go to Applebee's a million times a year, but we don't pick out which one is going to be the special night at Applebee's, right?
Yeah.
We just go because we know that's life-giving to our relationship.
Yes.
And then, you know what? Who knows? The one we went to in April, it was just like, man, it was just... And it was so rich, And so I just get in the habit, and you never know which one's gonna be the one where the Lord's like, let me just give you some extra. Let me just give you a little bit of extra.
I like that. So it's don't predetermine it, but also don't discredit the times where it feels silent, or the times where it feels routine, or the times where it feels like you're talking to thin air. That's okay. Sometimes that feels like that to me. Sometimes I feel like, okay, well, it's been fun, and you continue on. But it keeps. I think for me though, it's about you keep in tune, right? You're just keeping in tune, and I'm checking in, and it's training my heart and my mind to be in tune with God. And I think that's kind of the key piece in it, in any way.
Period. Which is why I love how intentional y'all are about prayer with the Lent season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah, that's been fun. It's been a nice thing that we've been really doing. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna throw you a curveball.
Okay.
Are you okay with curveball? Okay, so I am, one of the things even you're honing in on is this journey, right?
Yes.
This journey of prayer,
Yeah.
this journey of allowing God to kind of build in space. But one of the things the Lord was really pressing on me with you specifically is your journey.
Yeah.
What are lessons throughout your journey? I mean, I know you have so many. I mean, you glossed over, I was here, then I was here, then I was
Yeah,
there, and then I
yeah.
planted a church.
Yeah, yeah.
There's got to be some lessons in there. So top 3 lessons.
Well, jeez, thank you. I would just say, I think the one thing that was ringing in my heart, in my head, the sovereignty aspect, like God's providence. I mean, you know, the silly little picture, it's not silly, the footprints in the sand, like that, it's just true. Like, I remember literally when Rufus, who was my boss at the time, really gave me the blessing to pursue the pastorate, to be the church planter. I mean, he affirmed that, but I affirm what the Lord has been doing in you through your life experiences. This makes sense, you know? And so I think that's why, you know, we got this young church. I got a bunch of 20-somethings in there. They don't know nothing about nothing, always crying about getting married and who's gonna find.
You better be careful, 20-somethings are watching this.
They're looking, I'm messing. But you really do want that silver hair. You want people a little bit ahead of you. And then I think that's why the Bible speaks about the strength of those, the elders, is because I'm sure, like as a mom, and especially how valuable is it for you in ministry when you find a woman who is in the pastorate, in ministry, when your life is going crazy and you can look in her eyes and she said, baby, you're going to be all right.
Yeah.
I'm a living witness, right? To the providence of God. He takes care of his people, Jess. That's what he does. And so I feel like my journey has made me embrace that a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah.
I get amnesia every day.
Yes.
Like, oh, my world is falling apart.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But I do feel like I'm getting a little better at recalling it. And I think that's why the Old Testament, and even through the Deuteronomic period and the Exodus, is like, remember, he is faithful. You know what I'm saying? So I love that particular idea.
That's a good reminder in that kind of going back to that, because I think it's hard, especially now. Like, I mean, everything is, it's so weird, it's so odd, and it feels exhausting sometimes, and it feels stale. You know, I mean, it's hard to watch the stuff online and to do the, you know, just the whole thing. And so just kind of going back to like, this is a journey, you know, and we get to be a part of the story. For sure. And let's keep going. Let's keep going. Yeah.
And that every detail or every assignment that we have, no matter how small, no matter how big, no matter the platform, whether it's in your home, whether it's in vocational ministry, whether it's at your job, like everything we do for the glory of that King and the advancement of his kingdom, like it means something. Like to the mom who stays at home and is raising them 3 babies, like, and you're raising them in the fear and the admonition, that means something to all of us. Yeah. Keep going, sister. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To the young college kid who is just like, man, I go to my small group studies and I'm just trying to figure out how to stay abstinent. Brother, that means something. Keep doing what you do for all of us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I think when you keep putting yourself back in the middle of this story, it just give you a little shot for the day. You know what I'm saying? Because what I'm doing does matter. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that's, you know, so interesting to me is I was actually just thinking about this the other day, is that we get so lost in the big stories on social media.
For sure.
We get so lost on the big.
Yes.
And then we forget the majority of our life is spent so ordinary. It's spent in a car driving. It's spent dropping multiple kids off at different schools, or it's spent just going to school, or it's spent just very ordinary. Yes. And we forget that the extraordinary happens in the ordinary. I mean, that's what God is using.
Let's go back to Lent.
Yeah.
So I've been in Corinthians, we've been preaching with our people. So Paul says, hey man, I want you to flee sexual immorality. And it's so crazy to me how he approaches it. He's like, hey, now I'm not gonna tell you to flee sexual immorality because the Bible has, you know, all these better or cooler ways to practice your sexuality. Now, I'm going to appeal to you on this basis, that you've been united with Jesus, right? And that your bodies have been redeemed to be resurrected, that these bodies have like these special destinies. And matter of fact, he says your body's a temple, which would have been crazy to anybody coming from a Jewish background or their background. Like your body's the temple, like the place where the living God resides is in me and you. Crazy. And it's like, yes, this, for the temple, we knew that's the place where heaven met earth, right? That's where the divine came embodied in here with us. And I think going back to prayer, going back to Lent, going back to why we are doing what we do, how would that change our life if that's the reality that we lived out of? That the God who made the heavens and the earth has saw fit to dwell in me. And of course we would pray. Of course we would try to cultivate that, because we know that that connection is everything for us. And so having that supernatural touch this natural temple, that's the key to our existence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's good. We better stop this interview, or you and I are just going to keep going back and forth and be preaching.
I am here for that.
Hey, okay, any final thoughts, any final reminders for those of us listening?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jess, you have been right, and it has been a really difficult season for a lot of us, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of challenges, so much insecurity about everything, a lot of ambiguity. But I think the one thing we have as believers is we have our sure foundation. Build your hopes, the old folks used to say, on things that are eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hand. And so I think if we would concentrate on staring at the beauty of Jesus, his person, his work, all of the things that were secured for us at Calvary's cross, you wouldn't even have to go knock on your neighbor's door and try to evangelize them. I think they would just tell by the way you go about your life that, oh my God, that the Johnsons and the Morrisons, they're dealing with the frustrations of where the baby gonna go to school. They're dealing with the frustrations of navigating, I can't go see my loved ones. But why do you always seem to have joy? It's because the Morrises have something the world didn't give them and the world can't take away. So you get you some of that this Lent, this season of Lent. I think when I used to think about Lent season, I always used to think about, man, I want to do a science experiment. Like, how much God can I actually get in this body? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much? And I always used to come out of these seasons feeling bolder. You know what I'm saying? Just more confident. It's like, I know he loves me. I want to tell everybody that he loves them. I want to tell everybody about what he does and the difference that he makes. And so, man, take this season, Hope Church and whoever's listening, go stare at Jesus, learn of him, and be filled of him, and watch it cause your world to blossom.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Love you, girl.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hey. I love you, Hope. I still got a Hope tattoo. Let me show you.
Thank you. This is a huge honor. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And that is a wrap for our Green Chair conversation with Tim Johnson. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Remember, today's conversation doesn't have to end here. I would love to connect with you and hear your thoughts about today's conversation, or even topics or people you want to hear from. So feel free to send me an email. Also, we would love for you to take a moment and encourage someone today by sharing this conversation with a friend. You can also watch any previous conversations at hopechurchmemphis.com/GCC or on YouTube, as well as listen on any podcast apps. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week.